The real estate industry and politicians constantly talk about a housing affordability crisis. I think it's nonsense. They're not at all interested in solving that problem. They just want to talk about a problem that can't be solved to put themselves in a position to look like authorities. We're going to get into those details. Before we do, let's take a look at the markets. We understand exactly where we are today. In real estate, in economics, there's two sides to an equation to determine where a market is: supply and demand. Now, in real estate, supply are the amount of houses available for sale at any time divided by the monthly sales, or what we call months of inventory. And the demand side is spurred by interest rates. Lower rates, more demand; higher rates, less demand. Let's take a look at those two factors. First, we'll take a look at interest rates, which have stayed between 6 and 7% all year long, but for a few little blips on the low side, a few blips on the high side back in May, and we've stayed at the higher range, but still between 6 and below 7%. And it's clear that at that rate, there are plenty of people who want to buy property. There's more buyers in their houses because every property has multiple offers still. Not to say they necessarily bid each other up like they did 2 years ago, but there's still plenty of demand for every property at every price range in general. Now, there's differences in markets, but that's a national number. On the inventory side, we continue to have historic low interest rates. You'll see the current rate, this teal color, is the same as 2021, which was the previous record, below last year, 2022. So down in the what I call the pandemic range, but below all other years on record. In fact, this is from Teradata, a great data source. Take a look at Redfin. They lay out over the last 10 years. Whoops, I just clicked on it by accident and I changed their numbers. But you'll look at the inventory, and there you go. You can see that the inventory now, other than the pandemic period, would be the lowest ever by far. Unbelievably low inventory. So you can't have housing prices drop dramatically. You can't have a housing crash when you have so little inventory. It's just mathematically impossible. And then if we take a look at the market specifically in Los Angeles where I'm operating, there's a great research done by Altos Research, and they take all the various factors and come up with a number, and they call the market now 44, which in their number is a seller's market slightly still. And you can see the median list price still rising. The price per square foot is still rising. So overall, here in LA area, we have what I would call a healthy market. Certainly not bad, certainly not go-go like it was 2 years ago, but healthy. Now, when you look at the national market on the on the housing prices, we can see that what was a housing correction in the beginning of the year has, as I predicted, slowed down and now is starting to turn back towards a normal rate. Here's numbers from the Case-Shiller Index, and you can see that for the last 3 months, the prices have started to go back up again month over month after declining for the first part of the year. So we had this massive run-up. We had a correction, relatively minor to the run-up of the pandemic era, and now we're back up to a normal rate of increase, or maybe towards the higher end from historical standards. So by all measures now, nationally, now the numbers do vary by local market, but nationally, we have a healthy market that for June of 2023 is increasing at a normal rate. Another reason why that restricts the housing and will continue and will stop a crash is the underlying mortgages of those properties currently held by homeowners. Here's a chart that was put together by the National Mortgage Database of the Federal Housing Finance Authority. And it shows that almost all mortgages are below 6%. 94% of current homeowners have home loans below 6%. Now, if you remember back 2008 and 9, if you were around then, one reason why housing prices dropped was sellers had adjustable mortgages that adjusted up. They could no longer afford the payment, either live in or rent, and had to sell. And as such, when all those sellers came together at the market, same time, housing prices crashed. Here, you have the opposite. You have home sellers that have low rates locked in for the next 25, 27 years. So that keeps their payment fixed, or if they're renting, keeps the cash flow working as rents have continued to rise. And if the mortgage stays the same, those homeowners are going to enjoy a rental property with an ever-increasing rate of profit. So we now know that the fact is housing prices can only go down so much. As long as rates are high, it's not likely that sellers will give up that 3% mortgage or 4% mortgage to buy another house. They'll stay put, and that will affect the market tremendously. Now, let's get to the real estate news. And the runner-up for the worst article of the week is National Mortgage News, and they're quoting a Freddie Mac rate. Mortgage rates to stay above 6% this year, according to Freddie Mac. Now, what's interesting about that? Now, National Mortgage News is just quoting Freddie Mac. What Freddie Mac does, like Zillow and Redfin, is they put out information that they know will echo chamber their name throughout the industry and position them as experts. But rates to stay above 6%, but we know that rates today are 6.94. If I told you rates are likely to go up or down equally, then you would say rates are likely to stay above or below 6.94. But if I tell you that rates are going to be, what are the chances of rates being above 6% when they've been there all year long, those odds are pretty good. So here you have a prediction that sounds authoritative, but really is nothing. In fact, I would say this is like watching a football game and one team's leading by 21 points and saying, well, they're likely to win the game. If it's in the third quarter, well, of course, there's not enough time for it to change most likely. And of course, if something happened like war in China or war with Russia and Ukraine spilling out over, Freddie Mac would say, well, we didn't anticipate that. That's why our prediction was wrong. So these kind of articles are just nonsense. And that's why I really focus on where rates are now and not trying to predict the future, because most articles predicting the future aren't worth the paper they're printed on. What's the worst article of the week? Well, the worst article of the week, in my opinion, goes to the California Association of Realtors, of which I'm a member. And their press release, the Realtors urge state legislature to prioritize home ownership. Wow, that sounds important. We should prioritize home ownership. What does that mean? Well, they don't really say it, but when you read the article in detail, what you realize is the California Dream for All program is what they're promoting. Now, this is a program that was so ill-conceived, they fought, got through legislation, got approved, and had enough money that lasted for 11 days. And if the people signed up for it, about half of them didn't even close those loans. So what you had was this kind of government program that created an artificial incentive for people to buy houses who couldn't afford them. And ultimately, most of those people couldn't even afford that loan. But it's worse than that, because think about it. How does the government taking your tax dollars and then giving it back to you to buy a house, how does that help you buy a house? Not only that, imagine they took back the tax dollars from the rich and gave it to you. Does that really help you buy a house? Well, it doesn't help the state in that the people who get the money maybe have a better interest rate, but they're bidding against other people who don't have that mortgage. But there's not one more house built. So now, instead of 50,000 homes being built with 50,000 buyers, you have 50,001 buyer, 50,002 buyers for the same $50,000 homes, 50,000 unit homes. So my point of all that is to say is taking money and taking it from one person to another is generally a bad idea. Taking money and giving it to home buyers, say, go ahead and buy a house. It sounds great, it feels good, but it doesn't create one more house. The problem we have in LA, not enough houses. The problem we have in California, not enough houses. So when you talk about the importance of home ownership, if you want more people to own houses, you need to, here's the math answer, build more houses. And as long as the California Association of Realtors runs interference for politicians and pretends as though there's some more complicated answer than that, they're not being effective. In fact, they're getting in the way. So that's why I give them the raspberry this week for the worst article being talking about their financing program, which was a disaster, rather than really helping people buy more houses. So what should you do? Well, I don't think you make a decision based on some fancy government program. You need to look at your business, your numbers, your savings, your goals, your wealth goals, your family life. Make the best decision for you. If it makes sense to buy a house, let's talk. Let's see what we can afford. And let's make that happen. If you have a house to sell, don't let the market dictate it. Do what's best for you. Consider the tax implications. What are you going to do with the money? And I can help you with that. So call me, text me, email me if I can help you in any way at all. And remember, as always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.